Shout out to the fam. Appreciate y'all for being in this episode of the show. I'm Big Q. Shout out to FanDuel, the official sponsor of the Sports Coma. FanDuel for all your prop bets. No matter MMA, NBA, and more, go to FanDuel. Shout out to the Patreon Champions YouTube membership family. Y'all hit the like buttons and the subscribe buttons. Shout out to the mighty Who Dat Nation. In this one, Clutch Points gives you a little information. 4 moves the Saints must make to clear salary cap space for the 2026 NFL offseason. We did a prior report and kind of talked about how important it would be for the Saints to head into 2026 year with more of a sense of urgency, right? Meaning recognizing that we got the quarterback at that level. He's 26. We have guys like Cam Jordan and Demario Davis that want to come back and add to this team. These guys are coming back for more than just a payday. They're looking to ultimately capture a championship. Now, is that possible for the Saints for 2026? Listen, anything's possible in the crazy world of the NFL. We've seen the New England Patriots and the Seattle Seahawks make it to the Super Bowl last year. Man, nobody's seen that coming, right? Except for the diehards for those particular programs. But why can't that be the Saints, right? We got the quarterback. We got a very strong defense. We make a few really solid moves in free agency and in the draft. The Saints could really have like one of these quantum leaps from worst to first in a major capacity. Of course, we need some depth and we need some fortune and blessings, right, to kind of stay healthy heading into a long NFL season. But man, this is the start. This is where it all starts. So anyway, let's get into this article to find out how we can get there and what are some of the 4 moves that needed to be made. So the Saints need to make a few roster cuts to club space in the 2026 offseason so that they can make a splash in free agency. Are we going into a splash free agency type situation? What do you guys think? That the Saints should be super proactive in their approach and going into it? So the Saints currently one of the worst cap situations in the league, but a few cuts and adjustments could set the stage for seismic challenge. Actually, we're not. We actually are not as bad as we customarily are. As you can see, I always keep this handy. My over the cap registry shows you 8.2 million in the red. If you go back in the past, it wasn't that. The Saints with 40 million, 80 million, at one time 100 million in the red, but some kind of way they were able to whittle down contracts, which means they basically kicked the can into the future and kind of bought time to operate this year. Now for this season, the Saints are up against next year, depending on what they do this year, where they only have 45 active players on their roster, as you can see, at 150.6 mil in extra money, which is some of the best numbers I've seen in a long time from the New Orleans Saints. So how can we get there? According to the article, it sings, despite coming off 5 consecutive single-digit win season, the Saints have the 7th fewest cap space in the 2026 NFL offseason. This is from Over the Cap. The situation is less than ideal for rebuilding an organization looking to restructure itself around a second-year quarterback coming off a Rookie of the Year worthy season. Everybody loves Tyler Shuck. It was really big this year, but we need to build on that, right? So Shuck ended the year with a first place vote for, with the end of the year with 5 first place votes for Rookie of the Year after leading New Orleans to 6-10 to a 6-10 season, including a 4-1 run in the final 5 games. He closed the gap on Jackson Dart and Cam Ward as the best quarterback in the class, giving the franchise's best hope under center since the great Drew Brees, the current Hall of Famer. Despite everything, the Saints are still in a better position than what they were a year ago when Derek Carr's sudden retirement left them in a state of limbo. But with a massive opportunity to get back on track, Mickey Loma, Slick Mick, cannot let the 2026 season simply pass the Saints by. The Saints can shake up the league in this 2026 offseason, but not without making some minor adjustments during the free agency period. Either way, the Saints need to be among the most active teams in a few months. So this is some of the movements that the writer is recommending that the New Orleans Saints do. Let Taysom Hill and Cam Jordan walk in free agency, right? And okay, before we grill them, let's see what his rationale is. The Saints' first order of business needs to be letting go of the past. Unless the league starts rewarding nostalgia points, Taysom Hill and Cam Jordan should not be on Saints roster this upcoming season. Although they're two of the most beloved members of the Saints roster. Hill will be 36 by the start of next season, and Cam turns 37 in July. Saying goodbye to two of the longest tenured players on the roster will shed tears, but the franchise must move forward without them. The 35-year-old Hill is the number one player the Saints must let walk in free agency. Hill has played just 21 games in the last 2 years, which completed the second half of the 4-year, $40 million contract extension that he inked in 21. The injuries will not improve at the stage of his career, particularly given his play style. So Hill has not been New Orleans' number one big play threat for nearly a decade, but he has been, but he does not fit that Kellen Moore plan as well as he did under Sean Payton and, of course, Dennis Allen. Even on a team-friendly deal, keeping him hardly makes sense. Now, Cam enters the 26 offseason under different circumstances after Benjamin buttoning his way back to a 10.5 sack performance in year 15 after just 6 total in 23 and 24. Although he's older than Hill, Jordan clearly still brings value to the team and flourished under the first-year defensive coordinator Brandon Staley. But after making nearly $10 million in 25, Jordan now has reason to believe that he's still worth his weight in gold. Perhaps Staley's scheme is re-energizing Jordan, but the Saints should not bring him back in 2026 unless he agrees to another substantial pay cut. Let's put a pin in that and come back to it. Number one, Taysom Hill and Cam Jordan, in my estimations, as being a person that's what we do as Saint content. We know the team like we know the back of our hands, right? Taysom Hill and Cam Jordan are two different spaces. Taysom Hill had a vibe going into last year that he was pretty much done, right? Remember the press conference when he was in tears and just giving Saints, the family members and the team accolades and thank you for allowing him. He played his football, his meaningful football here. I kind of think Taysom Hill knew at that time that he wasn't coming back. He went into the offseason with a shoulder issue. Had we had Taysom Hill in the final game of the year, I think we would have beat the Falcons, no doubt about it, man. But with that being said, I think Taysom Hill is definitely running into the sunset. I think that's Taysom Hill. Taysom Hill was terrific when we had him, and of course he helped out in many regards last year when put in the running back role. I think as time went on, Kellen Moore kind of learned how to use Taysom Hill a little bit better. Cam Jordan's a total different thing here. Cam Jordan is yes, he's older than Taysom Hill, but Cam Jordan is still a player that could perform at a high level. You still got to give Cam his comeuppance. We do realize that he wants to have one more year as the Saints guy, and none of this would be happening if Cam didn't have that 10.5 sack performance. Nobody would be, I don't want to say taking his bid this year seriously, but it was so awesome the year he had that it's let people know that, hey man, I can still play this game at 37 coming up in July. I can still play. I led the team in sacks 10.5. Y'all can't, so that kind of shut down a lot of doubt about Cam and kind of gave him new legs, to say, well, if I can do it this year, I can do it, at 36, I can do it at 37. And plus, they believe in Tyler Shuck. A lot of this is also tied to Kellen Moore and Tyler Shuck. The fact that the energy they had in the last 9 weeks of the season, how the defense was playing, how the offense was playing. If you can add more people to that, more weapons around the quarterback and depth here and there, and bring these guys back, who knows what kind of season the Saints could have. So I want Cam to be a part of that, no doubt about it. It's not about the nostalgia. Nostalgia doesn't enter the argument or the conversation because of the production. We're not talking about nostalgia if the player is productive, right? Cam Jordan led the team in sacks, 10.5 sacks. That's the first time he did that since 21, as the article astutely mentions. But Cam Jordan and Taysom Hill are in two different spots in my estimation. That's why people want Cam to return, because it doesn't bring him back with the Saints being able to restructure. They'll have the money. I don't think Cam will break the bank. I don't think he'll take a modest cut either. Him and Demario Davis want respectable contracts coming up for this upcoming season. Will they get them? They should get them. Demario Davis and Cam Jordan, these type of players you got to handle a little differently. And a few mil here or there, for those guys to keep them here in the perfect system while we retool and bring other assets in offensively. Along with what we have here, who knows where the Saints can be once the regular season ends and the playoffs begin. You never know. All right, let's go to the next one, man. How about trade or release Alvin Kamara? This is something we talked about because the NFL.com did this article and talked about how much money the Saints can gain by releasing AK-41, which I believe is $8.5 million, right? So this is kind of sourced from that. So after 8 years of being the engine for the Saints offense, AK-41 finally lost some steam in 25. The 30-year-old entered the season with career lows in rushing, which is 471, and receiving yards with 186 while appearing in just 11 games. Now his regression comes on the heels of an out of nowhere career in 2024, but there is a little reason to believe he will return to form in 2026, which begins 2 months after he turns 31. Now, Kamara's career has been built on usage and volume, and he showed in 2025 that he's no longer able to physically handle that workload. I'm going to come back to this now. Kamara still has 1 year remaining on his contract deal that the Saints have to figure out how to shed. Lomas should test his value in the trade market, but he also could release the long-term icon, which would save $8.5 million with a post-June 1st designation, according to Over the Cap. Now, although heartbreaking, releasing Kamara would not be a major shock. The 2025 offseason saw franchise legends like Cooper Kupp, Tyler Lockett, Jonathan Allen all sent packing. Kamara should be the next player in the same discussion receiving his walking papers, right? And this is what he's saying. The Saints have ignored their dire need to acquire another running back for years, and now they're forced into a position where that upcoming decision could make or break their entire 2026 season. Now let's put a pin in this when they come back to this. Number one, the Saints have been attempting to address the running back position. AK-41 has been a running back that has been hurt the last couple of years. But let's look around why that is. Alvin Kamara is one of the most well-conditioned Saints players that we've seen. He has not been overused. If you think back from Alvin Kamara's career, he's always, for the majority of his career, has been put into a duo running back system, whether he was with Mark Ingram or whether he was put with other running backs, like they try to pair him with Kendre Miller and stuff like this. A great slab of his career was in a dual running back role, right? Later on, he started getting a little bit more reps, depending on the offensive prowess of the offensive coordinator and the head coach using him. Based on that, you can, because he does so many things well. The injuries are twofold. We know that a lot of what was happening with AK-41 not getting his rushing attempts, and he'll never say this, he'll always put it on himself, is the fact that if you watch the games, you can see that the Saints offensive rush attack was pathetic in many of the games. Now, we're not talking about the last 9 games of the second half of the season, but early on, prior to guys started getting hurt, but prior to Eric McCoy, prior to Trevor Penning, then Dylan Reduntz, prior to Cesar Ruiz leaving in and out of the lineup, prior to that happening, the Saints could not and did not run the ball well. They could not open up lanes and holes. McCoy was getting pushed back, smushed down. Cesar Ruiz was getting beaten, tossed around. Trevor Penning was blocking up too high. The guys were just walking back into the lap of the quarterback, which was at the time Spencer Rattler. Guys had to vacate the pocket. Then guys started getting hurt. Then you start seeing McCoy, who got hurt again, which is 20-something games in the last 4 years. You've seen Cesar Ruiz in and out of the lineup, but he's already a poor playing offensive guard. Then you're seeing flip-flop play from Trevor Penning and Dylan Reduntz at the left guard position, right? So you've seen all of this. That affects the running attack with AK-41. He would be running into tight holes, and the hole open up and the close just as fast, and he was running face first hard into these tight holes and picking up 2 running yards here or there. Really wasn't getting anything. He got the brakes beat off of him physically a lot of time in these games. And just think about it like this. A lot of teams did not respect the quarterback play of the Saints the last couple of years, right? Which means they would stack the box and look to stop Alvin Kamara and force the Saints to throw the ball. You see what I'm saying? That happened with Derek Carr a lot of this, because Carr was hurt a lot as well. Spencer Rattler played a lot of games. This was the philosophy during the first half of the season, where people did not believe in the quarterback. So they simply stacked the box, stopped Alvin Kamara. That was a lot of abuse on him. So I'm just giving you the backlog, as opposed to people saying it's all on Alvin Kamara. It's other factors. I'm saying that if you put real good offensive linemen in the interior of the Saints line. And these are roll graders, guys that open up holes. You don't think to tell me that Alvin Kamara would be a guy that'd be benefited from a 1,000-yard campaign that he never had? He would be benefited by that. Any running back would be benefited by that. Even when the 9 games when Tyler Shuck took over, the running attack improved because the backup offensive linemen started getting in there and doing better than the starters when they were in there. You're seeing Luke Fortner, you're seeing Will Sherman, you're seeing even to a degree Dylan Redunce. They started playing a lot better in the second half of the season. The running attack came. If you have that throughout the year and you get some serious role graders in free agency and perhaps in the draft this year, and they can open up these lanes from the running attack, Alvin Kamara can have a fantastic year. He certainly can. So, I mean, like I said, but I understand the fact that they're saying that you can only use some of these recuts twice this year, like on releasing them for money for the clear pay. $8.5 million is a lot of money. Hell, if they did release Alvin Kamara, and I'm not advocating for it, one releasing, if they did post June 1st cut Alvin Kamara, $8.5 million back to the Saints, that one move gets them in the black for the $8.2 million that they're in the red for currently, according to Over the Cap. But I am not for that. If we have to restructure Alvin, not restructure because in the final year of his deal, even though he still have many voided years, we still can get him to take a reduction in pay because he doesn't want to go anywhere and doesn't want to play with anybody or play for anybody. Rather, you all heard that last year that he would go drink a drink on the beach or some crap like that as opposed to play for somebody else. Alvin is a Saint for life. He's the greatest running back the Saints ever had. Cam is the greatest defensive end the Saints have ever had. Demario Davis is one of the greatest linebackers the Saints have ever had. These are 3 Saints Hall of Famers. A couple of these guys could be going into the Hall. Right? They might not be first ballot. Some of them might be second ballot. Some of them, Cam to me is a first ballot. Some of these other guys might be second ballot or third ballot guys. But this is terrific talent here and all-time great Saints that we're talking about in their final years playing for the black and gold. So I'm for asking Alvin to take a reduction in pay. If he says no, then you can still move forward and restructure other agreements without having to touch Alvin Kamara's agreement at all. Because he's still seen as RB1. We're not going to cut our RB1 if we don't have a running back to replace him. And even though we might, let's say you do cut Alvin Kamara and then you draft Jeremiah Love, there is no guarantee that Jeremiah Love is going to come in there and work for you, that he's going to hit for you. You see what I'm saying? It's still an unknown, even though he has terrific talent for Notre Dame and did a lot of positive things in college. We've seen quite a many example of running backs who were balling in college and came to the pros and couldn't do nothing. So it's not a guaranteed thing, right? You have a guaranteed thing with Alvin Kamara. So I would not simply release him. If he said no to a pay cut, I would simply still keep my RB1 because you still kind of iffy with RB2. That's Kendre Miller, and also RB3 Devin Neal, who was drafted and brought in, but Devin Neal is a guy that got hurt last year too. So you just have to stack your running back room as best way you can. And I think AK-41 deserves the right to finish as a Saint in his final year. It's just me. It's not nostalgia. It's just respect. It's respect, man. Because a lot of these people be writing these articles, they want respect, but boy, they be putting in these damn articles about people getting chopping them up. And I understand this business is not personal, but at the same time, some players are just more exceptional than others. There's levels to it, and you don't treat your legendary players like that. Check. Anyway, let's go to the next one. Restructure, Chase Young, Carl Granderson. All right, so if the Saints are going to give themselves any meaningful flexibility this season, it includes a flurry of contract restructures. Edge rushers Carl Granderson, Chase Young are most likely candidates, you better believe that, to have their contracts altered before the summer. Young has $20.5 million in cap hit in 2026, the highest on the team. Granderson is $18 million, not far behind. These deals will be the 2 longest on the roster for the upcoming season. So if they let Cam walk and cut or trade Kamara, that's what we're dealing with. But Granderson and Young are clearly 2 defensive pieces the team wants to retain after combining for 16 sacks and 25. Availability has been key for each player, with Granderson going without absence in 2022 and Young missing 5 games since joining the team in 24. Granderson and Young will be crucial to the Saints' success moving forward in Staley's aggressive pass rush defense, but by restructuring both players, New Orleans could save nearly 40 million in space just between those two. The Saints have a few other players who could be restructured, including McCoy, center Eric McCoy, tight end Jawan Johnson, Cesar Ruiz. They can gain the most by adjusting the contracts of Granderson and Young, which is a pair of moves Loomis needs to make before free agency opens up in March 11th of this year. So let's get into this article. Totally agree with that. Restructuring, although, I would still re-sign Cam and Demario Davis because I think this year will be a special year for the Saints. Drew Brees going into the Hall of Fame. The Saints very well, and check this out, he's going into the Hall of Fame, and they'll play the Hall of Fame game in Tom Benson Stadium in Canton, right? The Saints could ride this Hall of Fame wave of energy right into the playoffs, right? This is a year where they had great energy coming off of the very disasterful 5 years. And we've seen something really powerful in the Saints offense with Tyler Shuck and Kellen Moore and others. So it was so powerful and great that Cam and Demario Davis want to come back for another year because they believe that their contributions could take the Saints into the playoffs. They can break the 5 season playoff snide. The NFC South is wide open, and the Saints are only $8-something-odd million in the red. Several restructures. The guys like Carl Granderson and Chase Young could get a great bulk of that money without having to release Alvin Kamara, without not to have to bring back Cam or Demario Davis. We looking at what between these guys contracts $8 to $10 million of what they're looking for. Now I do know that Demario is probably going to try to get a little bit more, but like I said, it's a certain way you handle your legendary players. I don't think they looking to break the bank, but they looking for what they call these respect deals. Like it's not a veteran minimum deal or something like that, but it's a contract, that lets us know that we appreciate you, right? And we want you to come back and play for us. So that's where the Saints and Mickey Loomis, Kai Harley, those guys have to make that work, right? All right, let's go to the next one. Release offensive guard Cesar Ruiz. And I've talked about Cesar Ruiz. He's been getting a lot of attention as of the last couple of years. I've been talking about the Porsche player Cesar Ruiz, former first-round pick, who's yet to, and I really said as many games as this guy played, he's supposed to be the best offensive lineman we have. It simply don't work out that way. His leverage is off. His footwork is bad. He's not as strong as he's supposed to be, not as athletic as he needs to be. His technique is flawed at times. He kind of leans forward a little bit too much to give up his leverage. He gets beat easily with some swim moves. And then sometimes he get caught being a little grabby, right? He doesn't always advance and shut off defensive linemen to get to the second level, to get the linebackers. It's a lot of stuff to talk about Cesar Ruiz, man, that needs to improve. That's why I'm advocating for the Saints when they do sign a start at the left guard position, that they continue to get another potential starter in free agency that competes with Cesar Ruiz unless you go into the draft. And they don't have to be in the first round, but maybe in the second round or even the third round to produce a guard that will, that competes with him for that right guard position. We need competition at that position. That needs to be opened up for competition, not saying that it's his position simply because he was a guy drafted that. He's not been doing a really good job there. So Ruiz contract is the biggest liability according to the writer on this roster. The former first round pick should be the pillar of the team's rebuild, but he has not played to the level his contract requires. Even Mickey Loomis mentioned that. Mickey Loomis said, we expect to see more from Cesar Ruiz. He said that, making him one of the most notable black spots whenever Loomis evaluates his assets, right? Ruiz is the most versatile member of the Saints offensive line. I don't know about all that, but also arguably the least efficient. Ruiz earned a pitiful 55.1 player grade on the PFF Focus in 25, the second lowest among the team's starting offensive linemen. He's 26-year-old, but he struggles mostly in run blocking, where he ranks in the bottom 10 percentile of all guards. Now there you have the stats to go along with the footage. Releasing Cesar Ruiz would save almost $7 million in cap space over the cap. So that adjustment would not make national headlines, but it would be a part of the Saints' large-scale operation to clear well over $60 million when it's all said and done. All of the costs are just their second worst starting offensive lineman, while having Ruiz up front has provided team stability to teams. The Saints have the opportunity to find an upgrade before Shuck's second season. At the very least, they can find a comparable player at a much lower pricing point. Now, you know, and the thing is, like I said, I don't think the Saints are going to release Cesar Ruiz. It's something to think about. I mean, there have been rumors saying that the Chargers, we heard the Chargers are particularly interested in rumors that they're advocating for them to trade for Cesar Ruiz. I was online telling them, come get him. You're absolutely right. Cesar Ruiz is one of the best linemen we have. Can you come and pick him up, please? You know, because they don't know. You got Trevor Penning. Y'all learn hard in San Diego, don't y'all? Y'all picked up Penning for a song and a dance. Now y'all can come and get Cesar Ruiz for a po' boy and a po' boy and a root beer. I mean, come on and get him. Come on and get him. But I don't see the Saints releasing him. I'd be very surprised and shocked if the Saints did release Cesar Ruiz to free up that $7 million. While they talking about releasing AK-41, man, please. If we needed money that bad, the first guy we'll put in the street is Cesar Ruiz, to be honest with you, because I think we can do better. I think we can do better. I really do think that we can do better than that. I really do. So what that entails, freeing up that kind of money, but I don't think the Saints are going to do it. So what I think the Saints are going to do, outside of releasing Cesar Ruiz, is open up his position for competition, drafting or signing offensive linemen to come and compete, because there are several offensive linemen the Saints could bring in. Of course, we have a hole at the left guard position the Saints need to fill. We have to re-sign Luke Fortner, who played behind Eric McCoy. If his contract is not out, if we can't re-sign Fortner, then we have to fill that center position some kind of way with another veteran. We can use another guard too. I can see the Saints signing 3 or 4 offensive linemen in free agency, the first and second tiers of their agency. See them getting a top-notch left guard, and then getting a second-tier type running guard to compete with Cesar Ruiz. Even going into the draft to add assets there as well. But they have to get improvement from the interior of the offensive line. The focus, they do realize McCoy is there at the center position. His constant injuries are a point of worry. Getting Fortner back on a return on the re-sign will be key to provide security for the inability of McCoy to stay healthy. The hole at the left guard position could be filled by free agency and or draft. The right guard position needs competition, and the tackles are good. We still have Asim Richards here. We still have Torricelli Simpkins, the third, Torricelli Simpkins, who is a guard that can play the guard position. Will Sherman did enough. Perhaps the Saints will like to see Will Sherman in that role. We still have Nick Saldiveri. We don't know what he looks like coming back to the fold. There's Xavier Truss there, and there are a few pieces there. So are any of these guys you can look at and say we want to see them compete with Cesar Ruiz? I would rather, now that we have some of the money, once we do the restructures, to come in and attack those guard positions as well as the depth, because we need to reestablish the running attack to help Tyler Shuck, as well as protect him and keep him upright so he can run the offense in peace, so to speak, right? So those are some of the things to talk about. The writer actually did a really good job. Shout out to Jaron Edwards at Clutch Points, did a really good job of kind of breaking down this stuff, and that's his road to victory for the Saints in the offseason, right? And those are some moves, like 4 moves the Saints must make to clear space in 2026 in NFL offseason. So what do you guys think about that, man? That was a pretty good article. Also, let me know how you feel about this article. Y'all put what we talked about, y'all comments and suggestions in the chat. Let me know if you were the general manager and Mickey Loomis came to you and say, hey, hold on, you sitting over there. You. Who, me, man? Yeah, you guy. I'm making you my new general manager over here. Come on over here. Yeah. Put this GM hat on. And how would you run the team? Well, how would you? Would you make some moves that we were suggested in this article? How would you handle the situation if Slick Mick Loomis made you the general manager of the Saints? Y'all let me know in the comments section how you would get that cap cleared, so to speak. So anyway, that's all I got for y'all. Y'all hit the like button, subscribe button, sub button, notification buttons, light them all up. Feel free to share the show on on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Reddit. It don't matter. Take the Sports Coma with you. Your help helps spread the message, helps spreads the broadcast to even further family members, diehard black and golds. And also shout out to FanDuel, man, the official sponsor of the show. Feel free to check out FanDuel, man, for all of your prop betting. Don't matter what sport it is, FanDuel is the joint. So with that being said, man, shout out to the Patreon membership, YouTube family, man. We got a new episode of TSC Q&A that's up for your approval right now. If you want to join the wave, the movement, you can join our YouTube page or simply go to patreon.com/Pro Media Network. Not only will you get dozens, literally over 5 years worth of live content there, but you also get access on Patreon to our news show On Q with Big Q and our library that goes along with that. So anyway, with that being said, man, y'all hit the like button, subscribe button. I'm going to holler at y'all on the next one. Much love, peace, and who dat to you.
Who that say they gonna beat them Saints? Who that? Who that? Who that say they gonna beat them Saints? Who that? Who that? Who that say they gonna beat them Saints? Who that?
Whether you're catching up on Saints news at Jackson Square, checking Pelicans scores in the Garden District, or staying updated on LSU while grabbing coffee in the French Quarter, there's one place that keeps you connected to everything that matters in our city. From Bourbon Street to the Superdome, from Preservation Hall to the Riverfront, New Orleanians are staying in the know with the whodatdaily.com. Your daily source for Saints, Pelicans, LSU, and all the sports, music, and culture that makes our city special. At work downtown, at a game in the Dome, or just relaxing by the Mississippi, wherever life takes you in the Big Easy, you can stay connected. Because when you're from New Orleans, you don't just live here. You stay in the NO. That's stay in the know. Visit the whodatdaily.com and never miss what matters most to Who Dat Nation.
Welcome to the Pro Shop, where we create authentic NOLA-inspired clothing for men, women, and children. From Saints jerseys to Pelicans gear, everything's crafted right here in New Orleans. Whether you're shopping the Pro Shop, the Pel Shop, or the Pro Shop Kids, we've got your whole family covered with genuine merchandise that represents our city's spirit. Check for links in the description section below or in the chat.